ॐ तव कथामृतं तपजीवनं कविभिरीडितं कल्मषापहं श्रवणमङ्गलं श्रीमदाततं भुवि वदन्ति भूरिराजन्. Your words are like nectar, bring life to scorched souls. They are praised by poets and remove all sin. They are auspicious to hear, wonderful and exalted. Those who spread these words throughout the world are truly giving souls. Welcome to our class on the Gospel of Sri Ramakrishna. We're on the chapter, The Master in Various Moods. This is page 590, and the date is Sunday, October 5th, 1884. Sri Ramakrishna was sitting in his room after the midday meal with M, Hazra, the elder Kali, Baburam, Ramlal, Hadi, and others. Some of them sat on the floor and some stood about. On the previous day, the master had visited Keshav's mother at her Calcutta house and had made her happy with his devotional songs. This is shortly after Keshav had passed away. So his mother was very devoted to him, and he wanted to help remove her grief. Hazra had been living with the master at Dakshineshwar a long time. He was a little conceited about his knowledge and even criticized the master now and then before others. Again, he would sit on the veranda of the master's room and tell his beads with apparent concentration. He spoke slightingly of Chaitanya as a modern incarnation. He would say, God gives not only pure devotion, but also wealth. He has no lack of it. By attaining God, one obtains the 8 occult powers as well. Hazra had a small debt to clear up, about 1,000 rupees. He had incurred it for the building of his house and was worried about paying it. Hazra is a very complex character. Sometimes he recognized Ramakrishna had great devotion for him. Other times he would think that Ramakrishna was a fool. Other times he would criticize him in front of others, and he would criticize the young disciples, which was really criticism of Sri Ramakrishna, that they weren't spending all their time doing japa and everything. That was Thakur should have told them to do it. So it was a criticism of both of them. And he thought he was a great jnani. At the same time, he's always doing his beads. And it was really trying to impress people most of the time. He seems like a character that no one could really have any fond feelings towards. But Thakur liked him. They had a role to play. And Swamiji was a great friend. Swamiji would go and sit with him. Swamiji was friends with many people that no one else liked. Or sometimes Ramakrishna would purposely say, don't spend time with this person. This isn't good. And Narendra would do the opposite. He had a little bit of that independent streak, and also sympathy and compassion for those that other people didn't care for. That was also part of it. The elder Kali had a position in an office. He's called the elder Kali because we have Swami Vedanta, who was the much younger, of course, younger Kali who became Swami Vedanta. The elder Kali had a position in an office from which he received a small salary. He had a large family to maintain. He was devoted to the master and visited him now and then, even absenting him from the office. Kali to Hazra. You go about criticizing people. See, this is why M gives that little introduction about Hazra here, because this subject comes up. Kali to Hazra. You go about criticizing people. You are like a touchstone, testing what is pure gold and what is impure. Why do you speak so much ill of others? Hazra. Whatever I say to him, meaning Sri Ramakrishna alone. Master, that is so. Hazra began to explain Tattvajñana, this technical term, Tattvajñana. Somehow it came up in the conversation. Hazra. The meaning of Tattvajñana is the knowledge of the existence of the 24 tattvas, or cosmic principles. He was wrong about the meaning of the word. The tattva has various meanings, and generally it means some essential knowledge. But we have this the Chaturvimshati tattva. The tattva is used in that sense also, the 24 cosmic principles from the Sankhya philosophy. But it really means some essential feature of reality. What is the real principle or truth behind something? So, Hazra, the meaning of Tattvajñana is the knowledge of the existence of the 24 tattvas, or cosmic principles. Yeah, these are the tattvas, but they won't use this term Tattvajñana. Jnana means some higher knowledge. This will be more the nature of Prakriti. He was wrong about the meaning of the word. This is M's comment, a devotee. What are they, Hazra? The 5 elements, the 6 passions. How, if we're talking about the Sankhya system, we'll have the 5 gross elements, 5 subtle elements. We won't have the 6 passions, the 5 organs of perception, the 5 organs of action, and so forth. Master smiling. Listen to him. Notice how he explains Tattvajñana. Now, possibly, if we look at chapter 13, what is the nature of kshetra, of the field, that will start out with these different cosmic principles, and then we'll add other things similar to this. It's possible that was why Hazra was confused. Listen to how he explains Tattvajñana. The word really means knowledge of self. The word tat means the supreme self, and the word tvam, the embodied soul. One attains supreme knowledge, the Tattvajñana, by realizing the identity of the embodied soul and the supreme self. Now, when we see how the acharyas, how the commentators, how they will explain different terms sometimes. Sometimes they'll use the real grammatical etymology of the word, and sometimes they'll explain it in terms that are not really etymologically correct, but it doesn't matter. Say guru, they'll explain guru means one thing, guru means another, the different ways of doing it. So the tattva, from a grammatical point of view, twa turns anything into an abstract noun. If someone is good and you add twa to it, it'll be goodness. So tattva will be the thatness of something. But the philosophers, they're not restricted to this strictly grammatical type of explanation. They can, knowing that this isn't the grammatical way that the word is formed, they can explain it this way, tat and twam. It's a very beautiful way of explaining the real meaning of tattva, tat and twam, as in tattvamasi. The knowledge of tat will be the knowledge of Brahman, the knowledge of tvam will be the knowledge of the individual, the jiva, and tattva together will be what is that relationship between Paramatman and Jivatman. This will be that highest type of knowledge. So if we want this highest jnana about the real nature of reality, it'll be this Tattvajñana, and it can be explained in terms of what is the real meaning of tat, the real meaning of tvam, which in Vedanta, this is the essential meaning of vichara, and the essential teaching that the Guru gives the disciple. Understand the nature of Brahman, understand the nature of yourself, and remove all extraneous and extra things, and you'll find they're one and the same. So that will be Tattvajñana. So Sri Ramakrishna, he's giving this really beautiful interpretation. If you look it up in the dictionary, tattva, you won't see it explained as tat plus twam. It's not meant to be etymological, and it's not that Sri Ramakrishna, or even, we'll see, even with Shankaracharya and others, it's not that they didn't know the grammar of it, but this is kind of a mnemonic way of trying to understand the meaning of something. So Sri Ramakrishna, the word really means knowledge of self. The word tat means the supreme self, Brahman, and the word Tvam, the embodied soul. Tvam literally means you. One attains supreme knowledge, Tattvajñana, by realizing the identity of the embodied soul and the supreme self. After a few minutes, Hazra left the room and sat on the porch. Master, to him and the others, he, meaning Hazra, only argues. This moment perhaps he understands, but the next moment he is his old self again. When the angler hooks a big fish and finds it pulling hard, he releases the line, otherwise it will snap and the angler himself will be thrown into the water. Therefore, I do not say much to him. Now, this is a very nice illustration that, first of all, we understand that Sri Ramakrishna cares about Hazra's spiritual life. He cares about it, and very gently he's trying to guide him. He's not going to be able to force him to do anything because he's such a strong-natured character. So what he's saying is that, yeah, well, he'll go to excess a little bit, that we'll let him do it. See, when a fisherman catches a big fish, sometimes they let the line out purposely and let the fish swim. They never let it loose. This is the thing with fishermen, that if you let it loose, the fish can get off the hook. And if you keep it too tight, they can snap the line. So if it's pulling too hard, you have to let it out, give it some room to run around. The Guru will let the disciple make mistakes and do all sorts of different things. And when it gets a little tired, then you start reeling it in. Sometimes you let it out again and reel it in. So the expert angler knows exactly when it's necessary to let out the line. And when it's too tight and it may snap, again, to release it a little bit. And when it's safe to start reeling it in. So he's using this example with regard to Hazra. We don't generally think of Hazra, Sri Ramakrishna training of Hazra the way he trains up his own disciples. But it shows that he cares about Hazra's spiritual life also. So when the angler hooks a big fish, so the Hazra is a big fish, in the sense he has a big ego. And not that he's a great spiritual giant or anything. And finds it pulling hard, he releases the line, otherwise it will snap and the angler himself will be thrown into the water. Therefore, I do not say much to him. So occasionally we'll find Sri Ramakrishna correcting him or giving him some advice and everything, but not the way he does with his own disciples, because they're not fighting against him. This is the way Hazra would. To him, Hazra said that a man could not be liberated unless he was born in a Brahmin body. They were all Brahmins, all these temple worship workers, all the priests and everything, because it was necessary at that time. And this was the very orthodox point of view, that through this process of rebirth, that one will have all different types of experiences in all different castes and all different situations in life, until finally one will be born into a Brahmin family, and male Brahmin family. Of course, at different times, there were different attitudes towards women, but generally, there's a very, very orthodox view, a male Brahmin family. They'll have the access, adhikara, to study of the Vedas, to having a guru, and also to take sannyasa, to take renunciation, because the other orthodox view is that one has to renounce everything. So the different views at that time. I'm talking about the early days, but the whole Puranic, the Bhagavad Gita and all of the Puranas are filled with stories of those non-Brahmins, and we have all these saints, especially Satindi and others who are not Brahmins, who achieved the highest realization. And Gita is especially clear that it doesn't matter what community one comes from, male or female or anything, that everyone can have God realization. It's open to everyone. So this was a tussle between the very orthodox Brahminical forces and the more egalitarian forces that we find in bhakti movements and also in the smritis, not Shruti. Actually, the Upanishads don't deal too much with these things. It'll be more Manu and other things like that. But that was the orthodox point of view. So Sri Ramakrishna, of course, does not follow that. Hazra said that a man could not be liberated unless he was born in a Brahmin body. How is that, I said? One attains liberation through bhakti alone, or through any of the paths. For the jnani, it'll be through anyhow through some type of realization. It's a question of personal understanding and realization, not a question of what family one is born into. One attains liberation through bhakti alone. Shavati was the daughter of a hunter. There's a hunter, and later the cobblers, those who tanners and everything, who have to deal with carcasses. They're considered to be the worst outcasts. They've been looked down upon terribly, and for centuries. But we have the story of the dharmic, the hunter and butcher who gave this teaching to that young yogi. So one attains liberation through bhakti alone. Shavati was the daughter of a hunter. She, Ruhidas, and others belonged to the Shudra caste. They were liberated through bhakti alone. But still, Hazra insisted. So this means that Hazra very often would simply not accept the words of Sri Ramakrishna, even if it was quoting from scripture and giving examples and everything. This is Sri Ramakrishna speaking again about Hazra. He recognized Dhruva's spiritual greatness, but not as much as he recognized Prahlada's. When Latu said Dhruva had great yearning for God from his boyhood, he kept still. I said that there was nothing greater than the bhakti that sought no end and had no selfish motive. This ahetuki bhakti, this is one of the most important teachings of Sri Ramakrishna. The whole Vedic period and the Karma Kanda, all of the sacrifices that were done, yajnas, they were almost all sakama. That means that they were done not just to please the Lord or to make an offering, but to get something in return. They were done for going to heaven or getting a good crop and all sorts of different things, good rainfall, but not just motiveless type of work. The puja is a little bit different because at the end of every puja, we say whatever we've done, we've done as an offering, not expecting anything. There's this purnahuti. This is done at the end of every homa, at least, that whatever I've done, whatever I've said, whatever I've thought, whatever through body, mind, senses, waking, dream, deep sleep, all of that I do as an offering to you. Whatever I've done, whatever I am, everything is done as an offering to you. So these pujas are supposed to be at least free from any desire, personal longing for anything. We don't do it in order to be successful in life, make money, fulfill desires or anything like that. Only the desire for bhakti. Yeah.
What's the difference between kamana shunya bhakti and ahetuki bhakti?
Did we get to it yet?
It's the same line.
Okay. Oh, you're reading the Marathi. Oh. Kamana shunya and ahetuki are more or less the same. Yeah. This kamana shunya means free from any desires. Ahetuki means motiveless. There's no motive behind it. We don't do it for any selfish reason. There's not much of a distinction. I'm trying to see where it will come here in the English. Yeah, they're the same. So this, I said that nothing greater than the bhakti that sought no end and had no selfish motive. So they're more or less the same. No selfish motive and more or less the same. Ahetuki and kamana shunya. Hazra contradicted me. I said to him, a wealthy man is annoyed when a petitioner comes to him. There he comes, he says angrily. Sit down. he says to him in an indifferent voice and shows that he is much annoyed. He doesn't allow such a beggar to ride with him in his carriage. But Hazra said that God was not like such wealthy people of the world. Did he lack wealth that he should feel pinched to give it away? Hazra said further, when rain falls from the sky, the Ganges and all other big rivers and lakes overflow with water. Small tanks too are filled. Likewise, God, out of his grace, grants wealth and riches as well as knowledge and devotion. Now, Sri Ramakrishna did not dispute these things. We have so many examples and so many songs that say that you'll get the four fruits of life. So that means not just dharma and moksha, but also artha and kama, that those who call on God with devotion. But for Sri Ramakrishna, yeah, it may be true, but it's very mean-spirited. And it's not the point of all of it, and it gets us more and more entangled, and it doesn't help us in our spiritual life. It is not that it's not possible, but that's not shouldn't be the motive, according to Sri Ramakrishna. That our prayer, our worship, all of these things should be done if we have any motive at all to increase our love of God or to break our attachments and our bondage, that type of motive, but no selfish motive. Can we say, if we're talking about prayer, can we pray for things for ourselves? That's a little bit different. Especially if it's something to benefit other people. Can we pray for the welfare of other people? Yes, we can do that. We constantly say, Sarve Bhavantu Sukhinas. We constantly pray, may all beings be happy. May all be free from disease. So this is one thing. Others will say that we should have such reliance on God, such an intimate relationship as a child has with the mother, that we shouldn't hesitate to ask anything. They're different attitudes, that's all. They're different attitudes. To the devotees, but I call this impure devotion to God. Pure devotion has no desire behind it. Shuddha Bhakti. Now, we'll find at times that Sri Ramakrishna talks about this pure devotion as the highest type of devotion not mixed with anything, even jnana. And then we hear this jnana mishra or mishvrita bhakti. We hear this term all of the time. And there'll be other times when somebody's saying, I want pure devotion. And Thakur says, unless you know the person that you want to love, how can you love that person? So he's always balancing things out. If somebody is just too much on the side of devotion with some distaste for jnana, and then you have to have some at least understanding of who is it that you're calling on and trying to worship, at least something like that. When he's praising the Shuddha Bhakti, he means this bhakti that has no selfish motive to it. That purity, ahetuki bhakti. So it can be confusing. There'll be times when he really looks upon this bhakti mixed with anything else, with the jnana is a little bit lower. There'll be other times when he says, no, it has to have a foundation in jnana. That we have to understand that this God we're worshiping is the ground of the whole universe and our very own self. So depending on who he's talking to and what the point he's trying to make, he'll explain these a little bit differently. But here, this pure devotion, Shuddha Bhakti he's talking about here, is devotion that's free from any selfishness, any selfish motive. Pure devotion has no desire behind it. You don't want anything from me, but you love to see me and hear my words. My mind also dwells on you. I wonder how you are and why you don't come. You don't want anything of God, but still you love him. That is pure bhakti, love of God, with no motive behind it. So here, it's not that we can't mix bhakti yoga and jnana yoga and karma yoga, but he wants to eliminate the selfishness from it. Real bhakti has to be selfless. Real karma Karma yoga has to be selfless. The jnani has to transcend ego. They also have to have tremendous dispassion and everything. So the selflessness is necessary in all of these paths. So that is pure bhakti, love of God, with no motive behind it. Prahlada had it. He sought neither kingdom nor riches. He sought Hari. He sought the Lord alone. M. Hazra is a chatterbox. He won't achieve anything unless he becomes silent. Yeah, he used to like to, he sat in front of Thakur's room sometimes to intercept people before they went in and catch them and have long conversations with them and criticize everybody, even the young disciples. He would tell them that you're doing this offering, who you're offering to, everything belongs to God. There's a conversation that takes place later. So Sri Ramakrishna, half flattering this Hazra. Yes, they're very high knowledge. They're not ready. They're not as advanced as you are to understand that. Don't take away the little bit of devotion that they have by telling them that they're only offering to their self or anything, wherever God doesn't need anything. Yeah. So yes, he was a chatterbox. Sometimes he would just sit there doing his job. Other times he would catch people and chat with them. Master. Now and then he comes to me and becomes mellowed, but he's a pest. Again, he argues. It is very hard to get rid of egotism. You may cut down an ashwatha tree, but the next day a sprout will spring up. As long as the roots remain, the tree will grow again. This is a statement that Sri Ramakrishna makes, even for God-realized souls, or those who are highly spiritually advanced, or those who have some very deep conviction through this path of knowledge, some deep conviction about the hollow nature of the ego. They have this very strong understanding, deep understanding, that when you peel the layers of the onion, the panchakosha, that there's no ego inside. There's nothing there. He says at the same time that they can argue for 1,000 times that the ego is unreal. It comes back. And the God-realized soul, the ego comes back, but we also have to remember this term ahankara has two meanings. One is this philosophical sense of ego, and the other is pride. This is the worst part of it, that someone can be free from ego. That doesn't mean that they don't have any sense of themselves. It means they're free from pride. So we all want to be that we egoless, that we don't care about people praising us, we don't care about what people think about us, that we're not worried about self-image, all of those things. We want to be free from that. At the same time, have a strong sense of self. Strong sense of self. That ego sense has to be grounded in either a spiritual attitude or in the highest reality. Either have a very strong sense that I am the witness, I am the observer of everything, that I am unborn, undying, strong feeling of that. There's a very strong ego. It's not a prideful ego, but it's grounded in some higher type of reality. Or this we think of ourselves only in terms of a spiritual relationship. I'm a child of God. I'm a devotee of God. I'm a servant of God. Any of the different bhavas. So this is one of the beautiful explanations that Sri Ramakrishna gives about this, what he calls this rascal ego, that it's not going to go away. So tame it, let it stay, let it be helpful, let it remain as servant of God, child of God, have some type of relationship, or even for the jnani, let it remain as soham, I am that. To be grounded in that, because we can't live in this world if we have a body and we see through the senses. We have some sense of I. Everybody has a sense of who they are. Ego only means that what is this idea we have about who we are, and for the jnani it'll be a very high ideal. I am one with the Brahman. For the devotee, it'll be a very beautiful ideal. I'm a child of God. For ordinary people, it'll be I am what you see. This is who I am and what I am. This is my personality. This is my body. This is my culture and my family, and that'll be the extent to which one has the ego. And for some people, it's a very prideful thing. For some people, it's just the opposite. Some people have a very poor self-image. It's not that everybody suffers from pride. Some people suffer from thinking that really I'm worthless, that I'm nobody, that I'm embarrassed, I'm ashamed, and everything. This is also the very harmful effect of this ego, which is identified with the lower self, the apparent self. So some people wonder, did Sri Ramakrishna have an ego? Yeah, of course he had an ego. He says there's a conversation with M one time, and M makes some type of statement that in order to live in the world and to be able to enjoy this devotion and everything, you've kept a little trace of ego. And Sri Ramakrishna says, no, and that's not right. Mother has kept it in me. So even that, he had no sense of pride that I'm the one who kept it or anything like that. Yeah. So he had to have a little bit of that ripe ego to be able to fulfill the mission, the reason why he was born. I said to Hazra, don't speak ill of anyone. Yeah, we always credit the Holy Mother with this idea of not criticizing, not seeing fault with others. But Sri Ramakrishna was equally strong with this. Don't speak ill of anyone. It is Narayana himself who has assumed all these forms. Yes, Sri Ramakrishna, he even didn't criticize those who practice Vamachara and other forms with taking of wine and sexual things and everything. He said, yeah, this is also maybe a path for some, but it's not for any of you. He said it's not a clean path. But he didn't go about saying that these are horrible people and this and that. He was very, very liberal in his attitude. It is Narayana himself who has assumed all these forms. One can worship even a wicked person. So this is what Sri Ramakrishna said. It's like the tiger, that we can say Narayana dwells within the tiger, but we have to keep a distance. We won't go and embrace the tiger. He talked about the mad elephant and the mullet. Yeah, that the devotee said, oh, I was told that Narayana dwells in all forms. Why should I get out of the way of the mad elephant? And he gets dashed to the ground, and then the other story goes on. And then the Guru says that what happened? He said, you said Narayana dwells in all beings. Why should I be afraid or run away? He said, you fool, Narayana dwells in the Mahut also. He told you to run away. Why did you listen to him? So it means we have to be sensible. If we worship a wicked person, it's from a distance. We have to be careful about mixing with people that can have a negative effect on us. Haven't you observed the Kumari Puja? Why should you worship a girl that has all the physical limitations of a human being? Now, in the original Bengali, it means a small girl who is not potty trained yet, who may soil herself and doesn't know yet how to even use a toilet or anything like that. The same little girl like that, we worship the Divine Mother in her. We don't look at that other side at all. It's a very, what is it? Hagamuti. Yeah, so very interesting phrase. Yeah, that it just means that even doesn't have to be a little girl, everybody, that we all have physical limitations because of this physical body. But it's that purity of heart and mind of a small girl, which allows us to think of her as the Divine Mother. Nothing to do with she's not yet old enough to be able to have modern adult hygiene. put it that way. So why should you worship a girl who has all the physical limitations of a human being? It is because she is a form of the Divine Mother. But God dwells in a special way in his devotee. Yeah, so because many people ask, how do we see God dwelling within These are horrible people who are starting wars and killing people and everything. The mass murderers. How do we see God dwelling within them? We have to distinguish between this covering of the body, the mind, the senses, everything, and that indwelling divine presence, which is there, which is the same in everyone. So the degree of manifestation is different. This is that lampshade that can either let all of the light come through, or it can be very dark and let almost none of the light come through. It doesn't mean the light isn't shining. If anyone is conscious, that the light of consciousness is there fully. The Shakti power to manifest may be different, and the coverings which prevent it from manifesting may be different, but it's there. It is present. Otherwise, no one can, living being can have any awareness and consciousness. The mind won't function. Even to do evil things, the mind won't function without consciousness there. But God dwells in a special way in his devotee. That means that that divinity within shines through the heart of the devotee because of all of the sattvic qualities that the devotee has, and the sweet personality that the devotee has. That it'll seem as if God is manifesting differently, but it's really our ability to see divinity shining through different people will depend on what is the nature of the mind, how much tamas and rajas is in that mind. The tamas and rajas are what prevent that divinity from shining through. The devotee is its parlor. If the gourd has a large body, then it makes a good tanpura. It gives a nice sound. So if we want to see God dwelling in all beings, easiest way, start with the avatar. After that, go to the devotee. Once we're finished with all of that at the very end, we try to see God dwelling within all beings. Swamiji made a very nice statement one time. In India, especially during the time of the British, those who were most who looked down upon Hindus more than anybody else were the Anglo-Indians, the mixed marriage. These Indian women are usually Indian women and English women and Indian men, or vice versa. I don't know. But anyhow, they were the ones who looked down most on and their children and everything, and always considered themselves Christian, didn't care for their Hindus. I saw this at different times. So Swamiji made a statement one time that I really feel that I'm starting to make some progress in spiritual life. I can even see God dwelling within the hearts of the Anglo-Indians. Yeah. It doesn't sound nice, but anyhow, it just meant that even those who will look down upon us, they may be very critical about us and not very nice to us and everything. Still, we can see God dwelling within them. Yeah, we shouldn't take anything too personally. Two monks had arrived at the temple garden in the morning. They were devoted to the study of the Bhagavad Gita, the Vedanta, and other scriptures. Now, when it says the Vedanta, the Bhagavad Gita is part of Vedanta, but from a technical point of view, this will mean the Upanishads. Mostly, basically, the Upanishads, perhaps the Brahma Sutra, because that's based on the Upanishads. But that'll be the distinction. Otherwise, Vedanta, as we understand it, Vedanta includes especially these three things: the Bhagavad Gita, the Upanishads, and the Brahma Sutra. They call it the Prasthana Traya. Sometimes they say the three pillars of Vedanta. So the two monks, they were devoted to the study of the Bhagavad Gita, the Vedanta, and other scriptures. They entered the master's room, saluted him, and sat on the mat on the floor. Sri Ramakrishna was seated on the small couch. The master spoke to the sadhus in Hindustani. Now, Sri Ramakrishna, he knew some Hindi. It doesn't seem knew nearly as much. So when M records it, every once in a while he'll record it, trying to make it sound like Hindi. Other times he won't even try, and he'll just explain what the sadhus are saying in Bengali. And sometimes Sri Ramakrishna himself would explain to the others, would translate for them. How did he learn Hindi? Our understanding is that probably when he was a boy, so many sadhus would come through, and the Laha family, they had a guest house and a feeding place, almshouse for any wandering sadhus to stay. And Thakur, as a little boy, would go and hang out with him.
He wanted to please Latu, and Latu succeeded in pleasing him.
Yes, yeah. There's our Swami B is Latu Maharaj. Latu was the only non-Bengali of the group. He was from Bihar, and he spoke a curious type of Hindi and a half Bengali Hindi and everything. And he was illiterate. And Sri Ramakrishna wanted to teach him first, I guess, teach the alphabet and trying to teach the difference between writing ka and ka, how they begin and everything. And this Latu Maharaj, he simply couldn't learn it. So he was the one of all the direct disciples who was even more illiterate than Sri Ramakrishna. What else did he say? Was just that? Anything else?
No, he wanted to teach Latu Bangla,
Yeah.
and Latu
Latu taught him Hindi. Oh, that. No, Sri Ramakrishna, we forget that how brilliant his mind was, and how he said that when the pandits, these great pandits, would speak in Sanskrit, how he could understand everything. He said he couldn't speak Sanskrit, but he could understand it. And probably he picked up the Hindi when he was very young. That when children are young, they can pick up languages very easily, much more easily than, of course, when we get older. I think young children, as they're learning one language, they can learn 3 or 4 languages at the same time. I remember one of the fellow students at the university, he was married and had a little girl, and they had a year where they stayed in Chennai, and they came back. He was trying to learn Tamil and Sanskrit both. He came back. He learned a little bit. He said, "But my daughter can still speak it. She picked up so much just as a little girl, just listening." Yeah, the language. There's a faculty for learning languages that we have at a very young age that doesn't remain, that we lose to a certain extent at least. So the master spoke to the sadhus in Hindustani. Master, have you had your meal? Sadhu, yes, sir. Master, what did you eat? Sadhu, dal and bread. Will you take some? So the bread means roti. Master, no, I take only a few morsels of rice. Well, your japa and meditation must be without any desire for results. Isn't that so? Now, when Sri Ramakrishna has these conversations, it's always about judging the depth of spirituality of the people he's talking to, trying to help them in his own way, to help them in clearing up any doubts that they have, and for the others there to listen to the conversation and learn from it. So Sri Ramakrishna, without having to consciously worry about these things or think about them, this is always part of his understanding, that he's saying it for the benefit of others. Maybe he knows he's saying it for the benefit of us also. He knows that M is there taking these things down. That's also part of it, that whenever M is there, sometimes he'll say, have you understood this? You're listening carefully. So these are questions that not that Thakur needs to know the answer. He wants to know what their understanding is, and maybe they can explain things to the devotees in a way that'll be helpful also. Well, your japa and meditation must be without any desire for results. Isn't that so? Now, meditation, we say yes. Normally, we'll understand that. Japa, people may do japa for some special reason to achieve something. Sadhu, yes, sir. Master, that is good. One must surrender the result to God. What do you say? That is the view of the Gita. Yeah, the view of the Gita is that everything that we do is a type of offering, type of yajna, is a type of sacrifice, that we shouldn't do anything, even the food that we eat, even the music that we hear that comes through the ears, everything is an offering to God dwelling within. To have that type of attitude, to convert everything into yajna. It's a very nice way of kind of modernizing this Vedic period type of sacrifice, yajna. One sadhu said to the other, quoting from the Gita, "Oh, Arjuna, whatever action you perform, whatever you eat, whatever you offer in sacrifice, whatever you give in charity, and whatever austerities you practice, offer everything to me." Master, if you give God something, you receive back 1,000 times over. That is why, after doing meritorious deeds, one offers a handful of water to God. It is the symbol of offering the fruit to God. When Yudhishthira was about to offer all his sins to Krishna, Bhima warned him, "Never do such a thing. Whatever you offer to Krishna, you will receive back 1,000-fold." Now, again, there are two attitudes. There are two attitudes here, that there'll be some who will say, yes, whatever I do, good or bad, I offer. This is the best that I can do. I know I made mistakes. I know that I've done things with a bad motive. Please forgive me and accept whatever I've done. Then there'll be others who will say, I have to be very, very careful. I want to offer everything. I can't offer something that's not done without some purity of heart. So they'll have that particular attitude. Both are good. Both are good attitudes. If we believe that it comes back 1,000-fold, that shouldn't scare us into being good, but it should be some incentive that others will say that everything we offer to God, that we want to offer bad things. Take this karma that should belong to us and give it to, say, we have some idea of the avatar. Well, the avatar will take on our bad karma. Should we pray for that? So if it's an incentive to lead a good, pure life because we want to offer this life, then of course, it's the best way to look at all of this. It shouldn't be out of fear that, oh, now I did something bad because I offer everything, it's going to come back 1,000 times. Yeah, we shouldn't have that type of fearful attitude. To one of the sadhus, well, sir, one should be desireless. One should renounce all desires. Isn't that so? Now, this is a leading question. Sometimes Sri Ramakrishna, he'll ask a question knowing that he's not going to get the exact answer that he wants so that he can correct it. He was very clever. His method of teaching was really brilliant without thinking about it. Not that these were all conscious devices that he would use. It was something just natural to him. So, well, sir, one should be desireless. Sri Ramakrishna to one of the sadhus. One should renounce all desires. Isn't that so? Sadhu, yes, sir. Master, but I have the desire for bhakti. That is not bad. Rather, it is good. Sweets are bad, for they produce acidity. But sugar candy is an exception. Isn't that so? Now, this question of desire, it's a very big question. I don't want to go into it too much, but we have to look at everything that Sri Ramakrishna says, because he's very much in favor of experimenting and fulfilling small desires and observing them and seeing if we got what we wanted and was it worth it, and that way getting rid of them. This coming to the end of desire, bhoganta, Thakur uses this phrase a lot. Bhoganta, coming to the end of desire, we'll never come to the end of it if it means always fulfilling every desire. We come to the end of desire by eliminating desire. Some we eliminate by fulfilling. Some we eliminate by just strength of mind. So Thakur is very clear that there's some little desires that are harmless desires, but may just be lodged in the mind that we can get rid of easily by fulfilling them. And we have all of those examples when Thakur, he wanted to eat the sweetmeats from all these famous sweetmeat shops. He wanted to smoke a silver hubble bubble, wear some fancy shawl, just to test his mind and to observe the mind. And what does one gain by it? This is the whole point of the Garhastya stage of life. Kama and Artha. This is when the devotees in the married state of life are supposed to try to go beyond all desire by fulfilling dharmic desires, by having a good family, raising a family, having a good job, having an occupation, being useful to society, not selfish or mean desires. That we have to eliminate completely. But a little desire to raise a nice family, desire to have a good occupation, to be useful to other people. This is what the householder stage of life is meant for, or guided by desire, guided by dharma, and all aimed ultimately for moksha. So the four aims of life have to be taken together. But the point that Thakur is making here is the highest type of desire. Highest type of desire is for God. A little bit lower will be for holy company. A little bit lower maybe to be helpful to other people. But these are all, if it's done, if this desire to help other people is done without any selfish motive, without any ego, without caring for any praise or any sense of gratitude or anything, then it's helpful. This is karma yoga. Then it eliminates a lot of the impurities that we have. So this question of desire is a complex question, and desires fall into all different categories. As Ramakrishna is making a very general distinction between those with that desire for God. But I would say we can distinguish between tamasic, rajasic, and sattvic desires. The desire to be good, the desire to help other people, to be compassionate, to have some understanding, to have some learning, to be useful to society. These are also good things. Now, we have to fulfill these and go beyond these also. But that's for the later stage in life. That at some point we have to say, now I care only for God. Some will say, well, what about helping other people, building reservoirs and digging wells and all of these things? Yeah, let others do it. I've done it. Yeah, these are good things and nice things. Now I only care for God. So that comes as a result of fulfilling these other desires and eliminating those harmful desires. We have to be, they're the ones that keep multiplying, and the effects become worse and worse. But Thakur says the more we desire God, the less these other things will bother us. This is the best way to get rid of these lower desires, to have higher desires. So he says that when the sugar candy, see, first these are sweets are bad, they produce acidity. But sugar candy is an exception that other times he'll explain. Not only don't they produce acidity, they reduce it. They reduce it. He says that with that hinche, there's a type of green that generally these leafy green vegetables, they'll increase bile. But there's one particular one that reduces bile. So it's not just that it's not harmful, it's helpful. It'll counteract the negative. So these very sattvic desires and desire for God realization should help eliminate these desires for lower types of enjoyment. Sadhu, yes, sir. So the sadhus won't argue against this. They probably just didn't think very deeply or didn't want to say too much in front of him. He's saying desires are bad. They agreed, yes. Sadhu, yes, sir. Master, well, sir, what do you think of the Vedanta? Now, again, we have to understand, for Sri Ramakrishna, Vedanta means Advaita Vedanta and the teachings of the Upanishads. This is code language for him. He when he talks about path of devotion, he talks about the Puranic path, according to the Puranas or according to Vedanta. That means according to Bhakti Yoga and the dualistic attitude, or according to Advaita Vedanta, Jnana Yoga. Sadhu. It includes all the 6 systems of philosophy. So when we go through the Upanishads, we'll find that, of course, Vedanta is prominent, but Sankhya, there'll be all sorts of teachings that form the basis for Sankhya with the gunas and everything else. And also the other schools will have at least something that can be found there. Master. So he's not very happy with that answer. He's master. But the essence of Vedanta, now remember, this is Jnana Yoga and Advaita Vedanta, is now he's quoting the very famous statement, Brahman alone is real and the world is illusory. I have no separate existence. I am that Brahman alone. Isn't that so? Sadhu. That is true, sir. Master. But for those who lead a householder's life and those who identify themselves with the body, this attitude of I am he is not good. Now, this goes back to a very fundamental teaching that I probably talk about too much, but I think it's so important that people are probably sick of me saying it. For Sri Ramakrishna, everything was a spiritual attitude. He doesn't say that I am he is wrong. He doesn't say that this is true and the absolute truth, that everybody has to accept this. He doesn't say that a dualistic attitude is true in any real sense. It's not that, well, whether you like it or not, it's true, or whether you believe it or not, it's true. Everything was a spiritual attitude. Everything was a path that led to the higher goal. And from one point of view, this is true, I am he. From another point of view, it is true with that feeling of ego that we have a sense of separation from God. It's not that that there's any one truth. It's not like 2 + 2 = 4. That you can argue for all day long that it equals 5, and someone will say whether you like it or not, it equals 4. At least for Sri Ramakrishna, that wasn't his worldview. Jotomo Totopot. It has to be expanded behind as many faiths, so many paths. It has to be expanded to as many spiritual attitudes, so many paths to God, whether we're jnanis or not. And this path of Jnana Yoga, for Sri Ramakrishna, he follows exactly the teachings of Gita. You read the beginning of chapter 12, it says, yes, for those who worship God, those who look upon God as the infinite absolute reality, I am one with that, they'll also realize that, but it's very difficult and it's rare, and it's not for people who have this body consciousness. It's for very rare souls. So Sri Ramakrishna exactly follows the teaching of Gita in this sense. So after saying this is the essence of Vedanta, Brahman alone is real, the world is illusory, I have no separate existence, I am that Brahman. The sadhu agrees, yes, this is Vedanta. Then Sri Ramakrishna says, but for those who lead a householder's life and those who identify themselves with the body, dehavat, this is the term that's used, this dehavat, it's taken by Shankaracharya to mean those who have this strong attachment to the body, but it can also mean those who have a body. Any embodied, that means everybody. We're all embodied beings. So if we take it from that point of view, unless someone is such an attitude that I'm not this body, that they live that way. There are sadhus like that. Whether it's hot out, whether it's cold out, they won't cover themselves with a blanket in the cold weather. They won't go to a doctor. They won't do anything. They don't care if they get food. They don't get food. So convinced that they're not the body. That this is a very rare thing. Our sadhus aren't like that. So he says, not just those who lead a householder's life, true, and those who identify themselves with the body. If they're not householders, then they're monks, or they're not yet married. This attitude of I am he is not good. So he's not saying it's wrong. He's saying it's not the most helpful attitude to take. It is not good for householders to read Vedanta or the Yoga Vasishtha. It is very harmful for them to read these books. Of course, we're reading them with everybody, but with the footnote that don't think that these are meant for exclusive spiritual practice. Let this be the ground for your understanding. Let this remain in your pocket. Take this knowledge of Advaita Vedanta, keep it in your pocket. Live in the world as an ordinary person, trying to have union with God, but knowing deep down, it's in your pocket, knowing deep down that ultimately there's oneness. But that's not an attitude that will be helpful that we can all follow all the time. Householders should look on God as their master and on themselves as his servants. They should think, "Oh God, you are the master and the Lord, and I am your servant." People who identify themselves with the body should not have the attitude of, "I am he." Yeah, we have that Upanishadic story with Virochana and the demons and the gods, and when they're told, "Look in your reflection there." Yeah, who am I? Look in your reflection. They say, well, of course, I am the body, that's all. But those who have a little bit of a deeper understanding, they think, no, it must be something more than that. Let me go back and ask again. And finally, they realize it's the real self. So there'll be some people that just automatically have that sense of identification with the lower self. So people who identify themselves with the body should not have the attitude, "I am he." That's a way of saying that I, me, this little individual, I'm saying I'm one with God. We read in Gita that one of the signs of the most arrogant person we can think of is Ishwaroham. I am the Lord. Now, it doesn't mean exactly I'm one with God. It means I can boss over everybody. You should worship me, something like that. But Ishwaroham, not exactly the Soham, but this idea. If we try to say, yes, I am God, many people with no understanding what it means say, I am God. I don't know what it means to them when they say something like that. It has to be, this I has to be completely cleansed of any sense of ego or personality. It has to be understood as pure awareness, pure consciousness. The devotees in the room remained silent. Ramakrishna was smiling a little, a picture of self-contentment. He appeared happy in his own self. One of the sadhus whispered in the other's ear, "Look, this is the state of the Paramahamsa." Master to M, "I feel like laughing." Sri Ramakrishna smiled like a child. The monks left the room. The devotees were moving about in the room and on the porch. Then the conversation will continue. So we're stopping on page 593, right in the middle. Om Niranjanam Nityamanantarupam Bhaktanukham Bhathurda Vigraham Vai Ishavataram Parameshamidhyam Tam Ramakrishnam Shirasa Namama. We bow our heads before Sri Ramakrishna, who is stainless, of infinite nature, whose heart melts in sympathy for his devotees, who is an embodiment of the divine and the Supreme Lord, and ever worthy of our worship. Om Shanti, Shanti, Shanti. Peace, peace, peace be unto you. Okay, thank you, everyone, and we shall see you next time.